What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with a comic book haul for Liberty Hill Comics. I haven't done a comic haul video in a while, and they seem pretty popular on the channel, so I thought I'd do a video showing off some Bronze Age goodies I acquired in a recent trip to one of my local comic shops. If you're new to the channel, welcome. The channel is where I share my over 40 years experience and passion for collecting, investing, and conserving comics. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. I live in the Austin, Texas area, and one of my local comic shops is Collector Crossroads. It's a huge shop near Lakeline Mall in Cedar Park, and walking in is a complete sensory overload. I think they have the widest range of collectibles I've ever seen under one roof. In addition to comics, they have toys, statues, sport memorabilia, vinyl and other music collectibles, collectible card games, pop culture related merchandise, high-end handbags, antique rugs, furniture, jewelry, guns, and more. I'm probably forgetting some things. Darren, the owner, is usually around, and each area of the store has its own manager that specializes in a specific kind of collectible. The comic book manager is a comic book creator himself, my friend Bill Williams, who is a writer and artist who has worked for DC and IDW in the past and has many other comic creator credits. He currently has an excellent creator-owned property called Punchline at Antarctic Press. Just in case you're wondering, his Punchline comic book predates the character of the same name over at DC Comics. The store is neat and clean and well lit. Comics are well organized and the back issue selection is huge. Bill is unbelievably knowledgeable about comics and has worked in the industry so long that he knows many of the creators personally. The quantity and the quality of books is high. They have approximately 50,000 back issues in stock at any given time and are always buying new collections. Prices are generally the high end of retail, but feel free to make an offer on anything. I've always been able to work out a fair price for anything they had on offer that I really wanted. One thing to keep in mind is they only have back issues. They do not stock new comics. So if you're looking for the latest issue of Batman, you will not find it here. But if you're looking for back issues, ranging all the way back to the Golden Age, this is a great place to go. Upon entering the store, Bill let me know that they had recently acquired a large Bronze Age collection with lots of key issues, so I was excited to see what they had in stock and purchased a few books I consider real gems. So let's get into them. First up is the Incredible Hulk number 140 from June of 1971. This is from near the end of the classic Silver Age run of the Hulk. Creator credits are Harlan Ellison, plot, with Roy Thomas dialogue and Herb Trimpe layouts, and Sam Granger finished art. Let's have a closer look. Now, for many Hulk fans, Herb Trimpe is a definitive artist. Personally, I do prefer the Tales to Astonish run of Jack Kirby, but you can't argue Trimpe is classic, and if you're a Hulk collector, you need to have at least one Herb Trimpe book in your collection. This story is a crossover with the Avengers and occurs immediately after the events of Avengers number 88, which is also written by Harlan Ellison and is based on a short story by H.P. Lovecraft called The Call of Cthulhu. The Hulk is shrunk down to submolecular size by this fella, Cyclops, while the Avengers battle him. And when he eventually stops shrinking, he ends up in a bizarre world at the heart of the atom. Here he fights this animal that's kind of like a pig dog. That's what he calls it. Then he finds a city where the pig dogs are attacking. Check it out, Arnold as a young man. And he sees that the city is defending themselves with just sticks and stones. So he decides to take on the pig dogs, drive them back, because he's still Hulk after all. He's still strongest there is. And then he expects the inhabitants of the city to treat him like a monster. But to his delight, they're actually cheering, not screaming in fear. He finds out that the inhabitants are all green like him, and they welcome him as a hero. It's then that he meets their queen, Jarella, and she senses in him the soul of a human. And she declares that she'll take him as her husband, as is the custom of her people, that the queen marry the greatest warrior among all her people. He accepts, and then it turns out while they're technologically not very advanced, her people have magic, and they cast a spell on him so that he understands their language. Inadvertently, the spell gives Banner control of the Hulk's body, and he becomes Banner Hulk, and as king, he's good king. He defends their land against threats, foreign and domestic. And he's happy. He misses Betty Ross, but he's happy. And then, just as he's defended them from an uprising, Cyclops comes to retrieve him. And as he's taken away, Jarella sheds a tear for him. Once returned to the Marvel 616 and his full size, he actually pretty easily dispatches Cyclops, although ultimately Cyclops is retrieved by the dark gods that he serves here. And then we see Doc Samson is up next. Issue 141 is the first appearance of Doc Samson, another classic. This book is in beautiful condition. It's got a couple of spine ticks here, but it's really stunning. As I said, it is a classic that I think everyone should have in their personal collection. If you look, pages are between white and off-white, based on the owl card. I own a mid-grade copy of this for some time, but I've been looking for a high-grade copy. And this is a solid VF to near mint, in my opinion, with some pressable defects. High-grade raw copies of this book usually sell in the $75 to $100 range online. There are only 237 universal copies in the CGC census, with a median grade of 9.2, which has a fair market value of $210 slabbed. Now, a slabbed 9.8 will actually set you back $1,800. If you like the thrill of the hunt, there is a UK price variant of this issue as well. And if you want to own this story on the cheap, it was reprinted in Marvel Superheroes number 91 from 1980, which you may be able to find in a dollar bin somewhere. I was thrilled to pick up this really nice copy to upgrade for my personal collection for just $60. All right, let's see what's next. Ooh, I think you're gonna like this. Next up is a signed book I picked up as a gift for a fellow collector. This is Avengers 181 from March of 1978. The first appearance of Scott Lang, who of course eventually becomes the second Ant-Man. It's written by David Michelinie with stunning interior art by John Byrne and this gorgeous cover that you've already gotten a glimpse by George Perez. It's one of the few books that they both worked on. I happen to own a double signed copy by Perez and Byrne. Check out the link to the video for my unboxing of that book if you're interested. In this book, we get Scott Lang named with some dialogue. I just really love this Perez cover. We have a beautiful Byrne signature here. Inks by Gene Day. Starts with this opening scene that really plays up the friendship that Wonder Man and the Beast share, and plays up the Beast's love of old movies. And it's actually the two of them that trigger our first appearance of Scott Lang, because they return to Avengers Mansion. The mansion attacks them with its automatic defenses, and as they break through the defenses, they encounter this fella who Wonder Man lifts up by the scruff. Tony Stark says, "Hey, put that fella down." And then Tony explains, "This is Scott Lang, one of my employees, and those tentacles you just shredded were part of a new security system he's installing. A rather expensive part, I might add." So Scott Lang seems like a throwaway character here, but as I mentioned, this is written by David Michelinie. 1 month later, David Michelinie uses Scott Lang in Marvel Premiere number 47 as the second Ant-Man. And of course, the rest is MCU history. The rest of this story is kind of interesting. We get a new Avengers lineup, triggered by the government and Henry Gyrich, who's here. One of the great things is that we get this splash page, which is essentially the same as the cover. And I don't know of any other example in comics where we get two of the greatest artists of their time both doing versions of the same cover, and we get to compare them side by side. I have to say, I slightly do prefer the Perez cover to Byrne's rendition of the scene, just because the conflict between Gyrich, Iron Man, and Cap does lend itself to just a little bit more drama and makes the cover a little bit more dynamic than this great Byrne splash page. As you can see from the splash page, we also have a Guardians of the Galaxy crossover here with Captain Marvel as well. The rest of the story is setting up new plot lines and character development, and basically setting the book in a new direction with the new team lineup. Here's a great house ad for Power Man and Iron Fist. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. But again, it's got great Byrne interior art. Phenomenal cover by Perez. The book is in great shape overall. I rate it about a VF with some pressable defects. It does have one little crease right here that's just barely color breaking. It's not quite a near mint book. I would say clearly has white pages. So a beautiful copy, again with a nice Byrne signature. Raw VF copies sell for about 50 bucks online, but John Byrne doesn't do signings anymore, so Byrne fans do pay up for his signature. There are over 1,700 universal copies in the CGC census with a median grade of 9.4, and there are plenty of Signature Series books out there as well. Signatures will generally net you an extra $100 to $200 on this key book, depending on who they are. Although George Perez did many signings in his career, he's sadly no longer with us. So there are no opportunities to get this particular book double signed. This book is also a great candidate for a clean-in press, as I mentioned, so I thought the $65 price tag was very fair and I was happy to pay it. Especially, as I said, this is a gift for somebody that I know will love it, who's a huge Byrne fan and a Perez fan. If you collect the hard-to-find variants, look for the UK price variant on this one as well. All right, let's see what's up next. All right, many of you will have recognized that last book, but this may be a book that not as many of you know. This is 2001, A Space Odyssey, number 8. It's from July 1977, and I have been hunting this for many years in high grade. It's written and drawn by Jack Kirby, and it's based on the Stanley Kubrick, Arthur C. Clarke movie, obviously, of the same name. This particular copy is stunning. It's got white pages. Look how white this cover is. Just brilliant. And it's the first appearance of X-51. So who's X-51? He later enters the main Marvel 616 universe as Machine Man. This book has been so difficult for me to find in high grade that when I saw this stunningly beautiful copy, I was thrilled. As I said, I've been looking for this for a long time. Now, Machine Man is introduced here as the last surviving example of these robots. He's sentient, maybe he has a soul. We just get this great Kirby art with his kind of off-the-wall writing. And he already has more or less his final form right here that we'll see him in many times later. This book was not super heavily published, but it was published at a time when some books were being put away. And so there are high-grade copies out there, despite it taking a very long time for me to find one, literally years and years. But this title was canceled 2 issues later. This title only ran 10 total issues. But Machine Man proved popular, so he got his own series soon after, and his series ran a total of 19 issues, the first 9 of which were still written and drawn by Jack Kirby. And then they get a new writer and penciler. The penciler is Ditko, actually, starting with issue 10. High-grade raw copies typically sell anywhere from $50 to $100. For slab copies, there are over 1,000 in the CGC census with a median grade of 9.4. Fair market value of the 9.4 is $200, but a 9.6 is worth $475, and the 9.8 changes hands today for $750. There's also a UK price variant, as well as a limited distribution 35-cent version out there for those of you that like the real thrill of the hunt. I was super happy with this copy for $65 because I think with a press and a clean, this is a legitimate 9.8 candidate. All right, I did save the best for last. Let's have a look. Check that out. This is one of my favorite comics from the Bronze Age. This is one of those books. I own 4 copies, I think. It's sort of like my catcher in the rye. If I see a nice copy at a good price, I just sort of can't stop myself from getting it. And this is a very solid copy here. I mentioned this is one of my favorite books. It's obviously Hero for Hire, #1. It is from June of 1972. And the reason why I love this book so much, it's obviously the first appearance and origin of Luke Cage and one of his rogues gallery, the villain Diamondback. But I think this is one of the best executed first appearances of the entire Bronze Age, and it's way underappreciated. What I like about this story is you basically know everything you need to know about the character in this one story. What motivates him, who he is, and why he is who he is. It's all right here in this masterpiece by the team of Archie Goodwin, Roy Thomas, John Romita, and George Tuska. This particular copy has off-white to white pages. Certainly not as brilliant as the last book we looked at, but still, it'll be off-white to white. And it opens with this phenomenal splash page. And then we start learning about our protagonist, who's named Lucas. We find out he's an inmate at Seagate, and that because of his abrasive personality, the corrupt guards don't like him, even his fellow inmates don't like him, and he's constantly in conflict. The captain of the guard here, this fella, Rackham, sends one of the corrupt guards, Quint, to see if he can get Lucas to turn informer. Lucas refuses. He's punished some more, but the prison is about to get a new warden. There's Arnold again. The new warden steps in, and Lucas catches his first break. The warden fires Quint on the spot, makes sure that Lucas gets some medical attention after he gives Lucas a few minutes with the guard alone. And then the new warden busts the captain of the guard all the way down to regular guard duty, Rackham. Rackham, of course, blames Lucas and vows vengeance. And the new warden makes good on his word, sends a physician down to check out Lucas. The physician is interested in Lucas as a test subject, as it turns out, and so asks his story. And Lucas explains that he was framed and that it goes all the way back to his childhood, where he was on the wrong side of the law with his best friend, Willis Stryker. But as they got older, things escalated, they got more violent, and Lucas decided he wanted out. Lewis Stryker stayed in the game and became an expert with the blade. The two of them were rivals for this gal's attention, Riva. Riva initially goes out with Willis, but has a scare. Lucas comes to save Willis from the syndicate. When Willis wakes up, he blames them both, and Lucas and Riva end up together. Willis vows revenge. So Willis has Lucas framed for possession and then has Riva to himself. Riva dies in the crossfire from his violent lifestyle. Lucas vows revenge on Willis from the prison. The physician believes he's innocent and says he's got an opportunity for him to gain parole if he wants to be a guinea pig in his experiment. Rackham's still got his eye on him, got it in for him, and he realizes he's never going to get out because the system's corrupt. So he goes to the physician, agrees to be his experimental subject. The physician's funded by the Stark industry, and he's developing a cure for disease, but because Lucas has no disease, he has to inject him with a poison first to simulate the disease before he can test out his cure. He does that. The cure is part of this apparatus. It's bathed in this fluid plus some energy. It's intended to be put on low dose and then increased over time as Lucas develops tolerance to the energy. But Rackham sees his opportunity, comes in, cranks the apparatus up to an 11, which overloads it. But instead of killing Lucas, it makes his skin steel hard and gives him strength to match. He breaks out of the apparatus, easily dispatches Rackham. Then, concerned in the corrupt prison system, he's going to get blamed for defending himself against Rackham. He punches the wall in frustration and realizes he could just punch his way out because he's super strong now. Decides to escape, is riddled with gunshots while he's attempting escape, and then he's assumed dead when they find his bullet-riddled uniform. He sneaks away, takes the name Luke Cage, because he felt like he had been in a cage while he was at Seagate, stops this burglar and gets a reward and realizes he could become a hero for hire. He makes his way back to New York City, fashions a costume for himself, and starts passing out business cards as a hero for hire. Willis Stryker's become Diamondback, and we have the scene set up for their confrontation next issue. See what I mean? Brilliant. Compare this, for example, to the Punisher's first appearance, which is awful in comparison. This book is, again, to me, just way underappreciated, and I love it. Here, I own several copies, as I mentioned. I have a raw that's about a 9, but here is a Slabbed 7.0, and I put them here for comparison. I think this book compares favorably to the Slabbed 7.0. If you look along this edge, I think it has similar wear. You look along the bottom edge, again, I think it has similar wear. Right edge, similar. I think it might be just slightly nicer than this Slabbed 7.0. So I've estimated this book as a 7. I think that's what it's likely to grade out at. And I'm thrilled to add it to my collection as a nice raw 7. Raw copies in this grade sell in the range of about $300 to $400. There are over 3,800 universal copies in the CGC census of Hero for Hire #1, with a median grade of 7.5, which has a fair market value of $550 today's market. The 7.0 has a fair market value of $425 in today's market, and a 6.5 is worth about $400. These black covers from this era really do make achieving a 9.8 extremely difficult. Although there are 3,800 copies in the CGC census, there are only 12 universal grade 9.8s. And for that reason, a 9.8 has a fair market value of $86,000 today and a record price paid of over 100 grand. Condition is everything in vintage comic books, and this copy is obviously no 9.8, but I was thrilled to pick up this mid-grade beauty for $250. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this comic haul video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see more videos just like this one. I'm sure I'll be back to Collector Crossroads again soon. Until next time, happy hunting and take care of one another.